Most of us feel uncomfortable with silence. In conversations, silence feels awkward, heavy, like something needs to fill the space right away, and liars know that. They depend on the fact that most people can't handle silence, so they rush in with explanations, stories, and distractions. But here's the thing, silence is not your weakness. It's one of your strongest tools, because when you don't rush to fill the gap, the pressure shifts entirely onto the liar. That pause you create is not empty, it's powerful. It makes them face themselves without a cushion, and liars hate that. Think about it. When someone tells you something that doesn't sound right, your first instinct is usually to respond quickly, maybe to challenge it, maybe to defend yourself, maybe to prove them wrong. That's what they expect, because if you're busy defending, you're not noticing the cracks in what they're saying. But when you don't bite, when you don't jump into defense mode, you leave them alone with their words. And suddenly, those words start to feel heavier to them. That silence is a mirror, and what they see in it is their own dishonesty staring right back at them. Liars often rehearse what they want to say. They come prepared with a polished story, or at least a version of events that sounds convincing enough. But here's where the pause works against them. They rehearse the speech, not the silence after it. They don't plan for you to just sit there calm, not arguing, not nodding, not rushing to reply. That pause throws them off balance, because now they're not in control of the flow. They can't read what you're thinking, and that uncertainty pushes them to keep talking, and the more they talk, the more the cracks show. The human brain does something interesting under pressure. When someone is lying, their cognitive load is already high. They're juggling the truth, their story, and your reaction. Add silence on top of that, and the pressure multiplies. Their brain wants relief, so they start filling the silence with more details, more explanations, more words. And that's exactly where lies unravel. They over-explain, they contradict themselves, or they add information that doesn't line up. The pause doesn't just expose the lie, it pulls the liar deeper into it until they trip over their own words. The beauty of using silence is that it doesn't require confrontation. You don't have to yell, accuse, or even call someone out directly. You just have to hold still and let the weight of their own words do the work. Silence works like a spotlight. It shines right on the liar without you having to point a finger. And what makes it even more effective is that it's unexpected. People are trained for arguments. They're not trained for stillness. That pause becomes uncomfortable, and the liar scrambles to relieve it by talking, and in talking, they reveal themselves. And here's the part most people underestimate. Silence gives you control. When you stay calm and quiet after a suspicious statement, you're not just exposing the liar, you're controlling the pace of the entire interaction. You're showing that you won't be rushed, won't be manipulated into reacting. That control puts you in the driver's seat because you get to observe, listen, and notice everything they're doing. The pause slows everything down so that you can pick up on the small signs, the stumbles, the unnecessary details, the sudden change in tone that you would have missed if you had jumped in too fast. So next time you sense dishonesty, don't rush. Don't argue. Don't immediately explain yourself. Just pause. Let the silence sit there. Let them feel it and watch what happens next. Because more often than not, the lie will begin to collapse under the weight of the pause itself. When someone lies, they want you to be the one carrying the burden of proof. They throw out a statement and immediately you feel like you have to respond, defend, or explain yourself. That's how they shift the power. They put you on trial, even though they're the one twisting the truth. But here's where the trick comes in. Instead of reacting, instead of playing the game they set up, you flip it. You hand the weight right back to them with a simple question. And that reversal changes everything about the conversation. It works because liars count on you being reactive. They expect you to fight, argue, and explain. That's what gives them control. The moment you flip the question, you take that control away. Imagine someone throws out an accusation or a questionable story, and instead of defending yourself, you calmly say, "What makes you say that?" Or "Can you explain that again?" Suddenly, they're the one who has to do the heavy lifting. They're forced to repeat themselves, to explain their words, and every time they do, the cracks widen. The beauty of reversing the question is in how simple it is. You don't need a long speech. You don't need clever comebacks. Just one short, calm question puts the responsibility where it belongs, on the liar. And the best part? It doesn't sound aggressive. It doesn't invite a fight. It sounds curious, neutral, like you're genuinely asking for clarification. That's what makes it so disarming. Liars are ready for arguments, but they're not ready for calm, direct curiosity. That's what catches them off guard. Think about how liars prepare. They don't usually build layers of explanation. They build a surface-level story, hoping you'll accept it without digging deeper. When you reverse the question, you force them to go beneath that surface. And that's where their story starts to fall apart. They repeat themselves, but the details shift. They explain again, but their tone changes. They add something new, and now it doesn't line up with what they said before. And the more they try to patch the gaps, the more obvious the lie becomes. And here's what makes it powerful. You don't need to raise your voice or accuse them outright. You're not saying, "I don't believe you." You're saying, "Can you tell me more?" That approach lowers defenses, but it also digs deeper. Liars are not prepared to dig. They want shallow waters where they can skate by without resistance. Your calm questions push them into deeper water, and deep water is where their story sinks. The reversal puts the pressure right back where it belongs without you having to do the hard work. Another layer of this trick is patience. When you reverse the question, don't rush to follow up. Just let them answer and listen carefully. Pay attention to the words they choose, the speed of their response, the way their story changes the second or third time around. You'll notice patterns, hesitation, repetition, unnecessary details. Those are the tells, and you only catch them because you slowed down, flipped the weight back on them, and gave them room to unravel themselves. So the next time someone throws something at you that doesn't add up, don't defend, don't argue, don't explain, flip it, reverse the question, make them carry the burden of proof, and then watch as their own words start to pull the truth out into the open. Liars feed off emotion. When they throw a false story at you, what they're really hoping for is a strong reaction. They want you angry, they want you defensive, they want you worked up. Because once you get emotional, you stop listening as clearly, you stop noticing details, and you start arguing from your feelings instead of from the facts. That's the exact environment where lies thrive. But when you hold a neutral tone, when you stay calm and steady, you rob them of that power completely and shift control back into your hands. Think about the last time someone pushed your buttons. The second your voice rose, their story suddenly seemed stronger, even if it wasn't true, not because it was convincing, but because your reaction made it look like you were scrambling. Liars don't need the truth on their side when they have your emotions working against you. But neutrality shuts that door. A steady, measured voice says, "I'm not rattled, I'm not buying the performance, and I'm not stepping into the trap you've set." That calm presence speaks louder than any argument could. Here's the secret. Tone shapes perception. You could be asking the exact same question, but if you load it with sarcasm, anger, or frustration, it sounds like an attack. And attacks invite pushback. But if you ask it calmly, directly, in a neutral tone, it doesn't sound like a fight, it sounds like curiosity. That difference completely changes the dynamic. Instead of arguing with your tone, they have to wrestle with their own words. And when the words are all they have, liars start running out of room real fast. Neutrality also keeps you clear-headed. Anger clouds judgment. Defensiveness makes you miss details. But a calm tone forces you to slow down, to listen carefully, to pick up on the small inconsistencies that would slip past you in a heated moment. Staying neutral doesn't just disarm them, it sharpens you. It makes you more observant, more aware, and more in control of the pace of the conversation. And the person lying to you feels that. They feel that they're not shaking you, and that lack of control is what makes them nervous. What makes this strategy so powerful is that it's unexpected. Most liars are ready for a fight. They know their words are shaky, so they try to bait you into arguing. They want you to look like the unreasonable one while they play calm and collected. But when you flip that script, when you're the one staying neutral, steady, and unbothered, it throws them off. Now they're the ones trying to adjust, trying to fill the space, trying to justify themselves while you simply hold your ground with calm, consistent energy. And let's not underestimate the psychological impact of tone. A neutral tone doesn't give away what you're thinking. That mystery unsettles liars because they can't read if you're believing them, doubting them, or just waiting for more. They want you to react so they can gauge how safe they are. Your calm silence and steady tone deny them that feedback. It leaves them exposed because the only thing on display is their own story, and that story is rarely strong enough to hold up without your reaction propping it up. So when you catch yourself face to face with dishonesty, remember this: your voice is a tool. The words matter, but the way you deliver them matters just as much. Keep your tone neutral. Keep your pace steady. Let your calm presence do the work for you. Because when your tone doesn't move, the liar eventually will. When people think of fact-checking a liar, they imagine confrontation. They imagine catching someone red-handed, pulling out receipts, calling them out in front of everyone. That's not the most effective way, because when you come at someone aggressively, they dig in, they defend harder, they get louder, and they twist their story until you're both lost in a battle of wills. But curiosity changes that. Instead of attacking, you lean in with genuine questions. Curiosity feels lighter, but don't mistake it. It's sharp, and it exposes lies faster than confrontation ever could. Curiosity works because it doesn't trigger defense. A liar expects judgment. They expect you to fight. What they don't expect is calm, genuine interest. Simple questions like, "That's interesting, can you explain that more?" Or, "How exactly did that happen?" Sound harmless, but they force the liar to give more details. And here's the problem for them. Details are the enemy of lies. Lies live in broad strokes. They survive when they stay vague. But the second you push for specifics, the cracks show up and the truth starts leaking out. Think about it like this. Honest people don't mind questions. If you ask them for more detail, they'll give it easily because they're drawing from reality. But liars? They have to invent as they go, and the more they invent, the harder it is to keep the story straight. Each curious question pulls another thread, and pretty soon the whole thing starts to unravel. That's the power of curiosity. It looks soft, but it cuts sharp, and the liar feels it every time they have to scramble for another explanation. The key is in the delivery. You don't ask with suspicion dripping from your voice. You ask like you really want to understand. A calm, steady tone paired with open